Welcome to Data Forward, the podcast that keeps you ahead in the fast-evolving world of enterprise AI and data management. We bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you stay on top. Ready to shape the future of data? Let's Data Forward.
Hi, welcome to another Data Forward podcast. I'm Ramon Chen, the Chief Product Officer at Acceldata. And I'm super excited today because on the podcast today, we have Bob Evans, the founder of Cloud Wars, the acceleration economy. Welcome, Bob.
Ramon, thank you so much. Pleasure to be with you.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, you're very prominent on LinkedIn and in social media circles. You created this concept and subscription called Cloud Wars that talks a little bit about, you know, the giants out there and what they're doing with cloud and technology. But describe how you conceived of this and your background.
Yeah, Ramon, thank you for the opportunity to chat with you and to engage with your audience a bit. I'm honored to do this. You know, I think, Ramon, the first thing I want to mention is I'm not a technologist. I don't know much about technology. So I just want to make that clear up front. I think what that's helped me do is over time to understand technology and see it pretty clear, purely from the perspective of the business outcome and customers. So I had been in the tech media space for a while, and then I don't know, around 2010, I said, I want to get into the tech industry instead of seeing it from the outside. I worked at SAP for a year. I worked at Oracle for about 5 years. And then I decided, hey, I'm 60 years old. If I'm going to become an entrepreneur, I better get moving on this. So I started Cloud Wars about 8 years ago. And my idea was to try to identify the most interesting cloud companies that seem to be tracking more, Ramon, toward what customers wanted and needed rather than back in the early days. I think the big thing the cloud vendors were saying was, hey, buy some of my stuff because it happens to be the stuff I'm selling.
That's right.
The whole industry has flipped incredibly over these last handful of years and much more customer oriented. But that was the impetus for me to get into this and to try to share some ideas and perspectives with people.
Yeah, so that's a tremendously interesting sort of path towards this. I'm sure all of our audience members are interested in that. We can talk a little bit more detail about sort of your career as well. But Cloud Wars itself, tell us what that is and how does it manifest itself? How do you keep the audience up to date? And what's the format?
Yep, sure. Ramon, it was part of my thinking was, and again, I started this 8.5 years ago, that at the time, right, it was a very industry-oriented discussion about who these vendors were. And they were stratified very strong. You know, over here was the IaaS camp, and here was the PaaS team, and there is the SaaS. And it's almost like they lived in separate worlds. And the more customers I talked to, they said, you know, we don't really see it that way. We're looking for a technology vendor that can help me achieve my business goals. And whichever one of those alphabet soup cans they happen to fall into, that's secondary to me as a customer. The most important thing is, can you help me achieve my goals? I also had a feeling, Ramon, even though, as I said, I don't know much about technology, that this stratification of, well, this is a platform and platform only company, and these will only do application. I just didn't think that was going to be enduring, right? You could sort of see for them to fulfill their potential and fulfill what customers want and need, they had to be able to expand and get into as many layers of the cloud as they could. So I just thought that the genesis here would be talk to the world about what these companies are doing to help businesses drive growth and innovation. Well, growth has been a huge part of what is a part of my thinking here. And the Cloud Wars Top 10 ranking I do, growth is it's a factor in there. It's not the only one, but it's a very big one. So, and I'll tell you, Ramon, it was funny when I started to do this. There are a lot of sort of inside the tech industry bubble people say, you can't do this. You can't compare an infrastructure company with a platform company with a, I said, sure I can. The customers do it all the time. The industry analyst community has sort of trained everybody to think in these buckets. And I didn't want to see it that way. I wanted to look at it from the outside in.
Yeah. So we're going to put up a graphic of your latest sort of rankings in the top 10. And what I love about it is the simplicity, right? The logos, the list of the logos of the top 10 and, their movements
Yeah.
sort of week to week. You say you publish this every Monday. And then a very short verb as to what's their latest, right?
Yeah.
In this example, Microsoft and their build out of their data centers, right? Also the same thing with Google Cloud and Oracle. But then if I look further down the list, I see investments in agentic AI, right, which is a very, very hot topic right now. And you could argue that the data center sort of expansion is related to that as well, right? Everything's on the AI train. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about, what you've seen over the course of the last, sort of 6 months and maybe even over the last 5 years as things have evolved. How have things shifted in your mind?
Well, Ramon, one of the things that I always tried to pay attention to was, on things like LinkedIn or Twitter, who's talking about the stuff that is not obvious. And you were one
Hmm.
of the people, I think, you took things early on from a data centric perspective. I did not, I don't have the brain power to understand in depth a lot of the things you were talking about, but I tried to sort of skate along the top of some of the big things you were saying. So the data move, I think, in some ways, I think, Ramon, a lot of companies, the big tech vendors have wanted to do that. They weren't quite sure how. They had sort of sunk investments in different businesses. And well, if I go and try to make it easier for customers, that's going to affect my integration business. Or, I have 5 different data models. I get revenue from all of those. We'll let the customers worry about integration. And then I think it was, 6, 7 years ago, the thing flipped and the customers began to dictate to the cloud vendors, you're not setting the rules anymore. We, the
For sure.
customers, are going to do it. So I think when that flip happened, I think that opened the opportunity, as you said, for these companies to do the things that were going to be first most valuable to their customers, but secondly, more valuable to them. The old data game seemed to me to be focused too often. Integration was the thing, right? That was the
Uh-huh.
only way out. So now we see a lot of the CloudWars top 10 companies offer data clouds.
Yeah.
You see the incredible thing of now Oracle database being available through Azure, through
Yeah.
Google Cloud, through AWS. I mean, 2 years ago, Ramon, if you had asked somebody about, they would have said, that's crazy. That's
Yeah, I know.
possible. But the business benefit to customers now overrides the challenges and the, competitive inertia that these businesses have had not to try to do things together. Uh,
Yeah.
I think the other big point that I'd mention about the evolution that I've seen, it's going that way so quickly. We think of Google Cloud, right, about infrastructure, about data and analytics, security, but now they're in the applications business.
Yeah.
Oracle's fastest growing cloud business by far is infrastructure. Microsoft jumping into co-pilots and agents. We see a company like Snowflake saying, hey, I can be the AI data cloud partner for these businesses that are going this way. So as you referred to it earlier, the AI train here is roaring, and everybody's trying to figure out how do I get on board that with what I have. So it's a fascinating time. And Ramon, for companies of the size of the CloudWorld's top 10 to move as quickly as they do and adapt as quickly as they do and invest as aggressively as they do, there's
Yeah.
no other industry on earth that comes anywhere close to this. So it's endlessly fascinating to me, and it's a joy to be able to do this stuff that people seem to find some value in, about talking about what are these companies doing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I super like about your coverage with Cloud Wars is the way I don't want to use the word old school because I'm pretty old myself, right? But the fact that you pull up a whiteboard or you have a whiteboard behind you and you essentially just old style write out some key
Yeah,
points and just hold the board up, and that's a show. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
incredibly
yeah,
refreshing, given this sort of generative AI and custom graphics and sort of cartoon memes and such. But you've got a very straightforward way of explaining things, and I really appreciate that.
Well, Ramon, thank you. I want to share a couple of secrets on that. First of all, it is an AI powered whiteboard. Right? I cannot reveal any more details about it.
Okay.
The other one is, Ramon, a lot of people have said, boy, I like that, you have the whiteboard. I can sort of get an overview of what you're going to talk about. I think that's great. The real purpose of it was so that I don't forget what I'm supposed to talk about. So it's a cheat
There
sheet
you go.
for me to be able to follow through on that. But I don't use like a teleprompter or anything like that. So I'm just speaking mostly, just from in a conversational way. But the whiteboard gives me some clues of, hey, don't forget to talk about this. But that's just a secret, man. So Ramon, so we can't tell anybody about that.
It's between you and me and our audience, of course. So who's your audience targeting, and who are the typical people that subscribe to Cloud Wars? And we'll put up a link at the end here to get people to subscribe. But what are they most interested in? What's the profile of a typical Cloud Wars subscriber?
Well, it falls, Ramon, really into two camps. One is among the customer side. So I guess, from the beginning, but I never set this out like in a formula. Like, you got to mention the word CIO in every sentence or every.
Right.
So
For CDO these days, right?
the CIO and CTO were certainly part of the original intent, but it wasn't like just trying to, today is Christmas Day for CIOs and,
Yeah.
or, anything like that. But clearly they were a core part. I also thought that and we've seen now all the big tech vendors say, I've got to also be able to speak in the language of the CFO or the CRO, the CHRO, the CEO, the boards of directors. So I've tried to take a very business oriented approach. And what's the business outcome here? How does business innovation let companies do things that they could never do before? And the technology makes that possible. But all the technology in the world without that business vision is not going to be enough. So the target audience clearly was the technology professionals, then expanded sort of across the C-suite of the customer companies. And I figured that along the way we'd get a lot of industry people following this as well. I've been surprised at the amount of industry interest we've had in Cloud Wars as well. So, people want to know, what are my competitors doing? What's happening in my company from this outsider's perspective. And then there's a fair amount of interest from the, financial investment, private equity sort of universe over there. I certainly do not in any way try to write for those folks, but that's okay. So for me, it's number one, it's the customer C-suite, and two, the industry and what's going on inside that.
Yeah, that's super interesting that many of your subscribers are themselves the vendor companies that you talk about, right? Because they want to be in tune with what's my competitor doing. Do you find that some of the moves that they're making are kind of a little bit one-upmanship? Particularly, it seems like every other day there's an announcement, and then there's a Trump announcement and another announcement on top, and you're reporting on all of this. Do you see in some ways there's a lot of gamesmanship going on between these mega vendors?
Well, I think, boy, whatever term somebody wants to call it, Ramon, and I think gamesmanship is part of it. I broadly refer to as sort of positioning. How do you want to present yourself to the outside world? And it's interesting, whether it's in the tech industry or somewhere else, right? You get a CEO who says, my vision for the future is, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that goes down to the executive level, and they get, 3.5 of the 4 pretty good. Drop down another level, they get 1 or 2. Then you get into the business units and they say, I don't care about those other 3 because they don't direct me directly, but I'm really interested in point number 3. So I think that you see a lot of tech companies across the different pieces of the organization present themselves to the outside world in different ways. It's right, like that old poem about the 7 blind men and the elephant.
Yeah.
Each describes accurately a part of the elephant. None of them describes the whole thing, and they're all very different pieces. So the stakes at which the Cloud Wars top 10 companies are playing, and Ramon, before this big drop off in the stock market, the combined market cap of the Cloud Wars top 10 was just a shade under $10 trillion.
Fantastic,
So
amazing.
there's a collection of some of the biggest companies on earth. I think they're paying a lot more attention to not just the cool new stuff that I'm building, but how my go to market strategies impact that, how the go to market and technology uh, things are intertwined now. I mean, we talked a couple minutes ago about that thing, the Oracle database at Azure,
Yeah,
Google Cloud. I mean, the inconceivable. But now AWS and Google Cloud and Microsoft have all said, this program's going great. Our customers can get more of what they want, even if it involves us selling Oracle through these others. So we see different go-to-market strategies, and things are changing so fast with the products and how they go to market and partnerships and how they try to address customer points that their their positioning and their how they describe themselves, I think, as you pointed out so well, it is changing very quickly, but I think it has to. But they
yeah,
have a foundation there that says, I'm not trying to be the coolest, tech laboratory in the world. I'm trying to be the company that helps customers get the business outcomes they want, that helps them grow, helps them innovate, helps them dazzle their customers. As long as that's my
yeah.
foundation, then the different language I use to describe that people will get. But without that sort of core foundation of what am I all about here, I think they're going to lose a lot of people.
Yeah, entirely correct. I mean, so at Acceldata, as you know, we do data observability, and data observability technology spans all these different clouds, even on premise, some older Oracle legacy on-prem databases, which are still plenty kicking around, right? And how that data moves from there into Snowflake or into Google Cloud and so forth. Data observability gives the visibility of how the quality of the data and the flow through the systems. So we're uniquely positioned because we have to work with all of the
Yeah.
major cloud vendors, all of the environments, Snowflake, Databricks, and so forth, because our customer dictates it, right? They need that sort of bird's eye view, if you
Yes.
will, on everything. And what we find is that the cloud giants like Amazon and Google try to be as open as possible, right? There's no Gone are the days where, okay, my walled garden, right, to use an
Yes.
old term of our cloud environment, like you described, Oracle can run anywhere, right? And I think it's better for the customer, it's better for everybody, and may the best technology win, right? It's one of those things where I think open competition is just fierce and great.
Yeah. Yeah. Ramon, let me just, I don't mean this as a quiz.
Yeah.
I say to you that if I mention the company Workday, what's Workday's business?
Well, Workday is a customer of Acceldata, and Workday's business is both people and financial efficiency and management. That's how they position themselves,
Yeah.
right? Optimizing sort of the best out of your people and resources and financial capabilities.
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely right. So, I think the old way companies might have thought it was, oh, Workday is an applications company, or Workday is
Yeah,
a SaaS company. Now Workday
yeah,
says, no, we're a platform company
yeah,
because they have to have the platform to get the apps and the solutions and the data to get to the agents. So the thing you're talking about with your company is just at the heart of what everything now all these companies are doing, right? You go from number 10 up to number 1, Snowflake, the data cloud. You got IBM making data more part of what they're doing. And software now, I think, is 55%, 56% of IBM's revenue, right? The big iron company
yeah.
completely changed, up through their sales force. Now, I talk about Agentforce. They don't talk very much at all about their big cloud applications. So the world is flipped. It's bringing data to the center. Your points about how Acceldata helps everybody get that, plays the open game. We hear all of the Cloud Wars top 10 companies. It's almost like they're tripping over each other to say who can use the word open more than anybody else. But the ones that actually do it and not just talk about it, I think are going to be the big winners.
For sure, yeah, and definitely we see that with Workday, and it's a great example, right, of Workday wanting visibility because they're a big partner with Google and such, and Snowflake, and it's really clear that it's a heterogeneous world, and it's not going to change anytime soon. To get very topical, sort of Microsoft yesterday announced unbelievable earnings, and the stock is
Yeah.
sky high, and they're back on the train. It's interesting that there's been a lot of panic, as you pointed out. The stock market has come down significantly from its highs, but it's starting to tick back up because of the tariffs and all of that. How do you see things happening? Do you think that the environment is morphing in this new world and this new age, or are people saying, "Look, we've still got to invest in, data centers. AI is still in its early infancy and stages." How, if you were to have a little crystal ball and just even looking, 6 months ahead, how do you think the cloud wars will shape out?
Yeah, Ramon, broadly on that, I have to say, I certainly, I am very bullish about I'm not talking about stock prices, but about the potential of this industry. I think we're only scratching the surface of it, right? 2 years ago, how many businesses do you know that were using agents?
Yeah,
Had to be, if not zero, is under 5%.
for
And
sure.
now it is a number one priority
Hmm.
for many boards of directors. They're saying we have to be in this game. It's going to change how we work. If you think about, the possibility of, what was it, Sam Altman from OpenAI, when he was at the White House speaking about that. I'm just blanking on the name, Project Stargate.
Yep.
And he said, we will, with this new power, we'll be able to do things like affect cures for cancer much, much more rapidly than anybody ever thought possible. And he said, not cancer broadly, but specific types of cancer within specific people who have a specific makeup. I mean, nobody 2-3 years ago thought this was possible, yet we're on the threshold of it. So I think just, those couple examples, Ramon, it is, for every type of business, they can be made more productive, more efficient, more innovative, faster moving, and shift more resources toward dazzling their customers. And I just don't see how a technology or an investment that a business could make in something like that, I don't see how that is going to be ignored.
Yeah.
Both because an individual company and, the pharmacy business or the retail business or the shoemaking business, whatever they're in, their business can be more successful, more profitable, grow faster, and have a better future with some of these technology tools.
Yeah.
Applied the right way with the right thing. So I'm very bullish on the ongoing high growth rate, Ram, for the cloud and AI wars. And I could be completely wrong, but everything
No,
that I
you're
think
spot
of
on.
points in that direction.
You're spot on, and actually, it's good opportunity for me to sort of plug an event that we have in San Francisco
Yeah.
on May the 20th called Autonomous 25.
Mhm.
We have a keynote from Kazi Kozakov. I'm not sure if you know her, but she's one of the leading thought leaders in AI, and really excited that she's going to be keynoting the event. And we're going to have companies from Nestle, Workday, Wells Fargo talk about data management with agentic AI. So I hope you'll be able to join us, Bob. I'll send you an invite. But it's a really interesting time that we're in. Thrilled that you came on, Bob. It's been sort of a long time coming. I've been sort of ever since I met you and been subscribed. I've wanted to interview you like this. We're also going to pop up sort of a link so that people can subscribe to Cloud Wars.
Thank you.
I wish you every success, and would love to have you on again in the future.
Ramon, thanks so much. I'd love to do that. You've been very kind. It's an honor to be with you here today, and I hope your Autonomous 25 event in a couple of weeks is a massive success for you.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thanks, Ramon.
Welcome to Data Forward, the podcast that keeps you ahead in the fast-evolving world of enterprise AI and data management. We bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you stay on top. Ready to shape the future of data? Let's data forward.